Have you ever flicked on a light switch during a storm and felt that little jolt of panic when nothing happens? Or maybe you've seen the news reports about rolling blackouts in Texas or California and wondered, wait, how is this happening in the United States? It's a valid question. For a country that prides itself on innovation and reliability, our energy system seems surprisingly fragile. Today, we're going to unravel why. Let's start with a basic fact. The American power grid is old. Really old. Much of it was built in the 1950s and 60s, with a projected lifespan of about 50 years. Well, do the math. We're living on borrowed time. These aging components, the transformers, the power lines, the substations are like the worn-out parts of a classic car. They can still run, but they're far more likely to break down, especially when they're pushed to their limits. And they are being pushed like never before. The first major stressor is extreme weather, which is becoming the new normal thanks to climate change. We're seeing more intense hurricanes, more widespread wildfires, deeper freezes, and hotter heat waves. Each one of these events puts a massive strain on our grid. Hurricanes can topple power lines over hundreds of miles. Wildfires can destroy transmission infrastructure and force utilities to shut off power preemptively to prevent more fires from starting. The Texas freeze in 2021 was a perfect example of this. Natural gas pipelines froze, wind turbines iced over, and even traditional power plants couldn't operate in the extreme cold they weren't built for. The result was a catastrophic, statewide blackout, but it's not just the weather. The very way we generate and use electricity is undergoing a seismic shift. We're moving away from centralized, fossil fuel power plants like massive coal or natural gas facilities and toward decentralized, renewable sources like wind and solar. This transition is fantastic for the environment, but it introduces a new kind of challenge: intermittency. The sun doesn't always shine, and the wind doesn't always blow. Unlike a coal plant that can be fired up on demand, renewables are variable. So when a cloud covers a huge solar farm or the wind dies down across a region, the power supply can suddenly drop. Our current grid wasn't designed for this kind of fluctuation. It was built for a steady, predictable flow of power from a few large sources. Managing these ups and downs requires a much smarter, more flexible grid, and frankly, we're not there yet. This leads to the crucial issue of energy storage. To make renewables reliable, we need a way to store the excess energy they generate when it's sunny or windy, and then release it when it's not. Think of it like a giant battery for the grid. Well, battery technology is improving at an incredible pace. Deploying it on a scale large enough to back up entire states or regions is a monumental and expensive undertaking. We're in a race against time to build out this storage capacity before the intermittency of renewables starts, causing more frequent disruptions. Now, let's talk about the physical infrastructure itself. America's power grid is actually three distinct grids: the Eastern Interconnection, the Western Interconnection, and the Texas Interconnection. These grids are connected, but the links between them are surprisingly weak. This means it's very difficult to send large amounts of power from a region with a surplus, say the windy Midwest, to a region experiencing a shortage, like California during a heat wave. Upgrading these connections, known as interties, is technically possible but faces a mountain of regulatory hurdles, political opposition, and what's often called NIMBYism, not in my backyard. People want reliable power, but they often don't want the high-voltage transmission lines running through their communities. This brings us to the human element: underinvestment and regulation. For decades, utilities have often prioritized keeping costs low for consumers over making long-term, expensive upgrades to the grid. It's a tough balancing act. No one wants their electricity bill to skyrocket. But deferring maintenance and modernization for too long is like ignoring a leaky roof. Eventually, the whole structure becomes compromised. The regulatory framework can also be a bottleneck. Getting approval for a new transmission line can take over a decade, crossing multiple state lines and jurisdictions, each with its own set of rules and political interests. This slow, fragmented process makes it incredibly difficult to build the resilient, modern grid we urgently need. And we can't forget about security. Our grid is increasingly digitized and connected to the internet to make it smarter. While this helps with efficiency, it also opens the door to new threats. Cyber attacks are a very real danger. A sophisticated hack could potentially disable parts of the grid, causing chaos far beyond a simple power outage. Physical attacks on substations have also become a growing concern, highlighting the vulnerability of these critical, often unprotected, nodes in our energy network. So, where do we go from here? The situation sounds dire, but there is a path forward. It involves a massive, coordinated effort on several fronts. First, we need to invest heavily in modernizing the grid. This means replacing old equipment, weatherizing critical components to withstand extreme temperatures, and burying more power lines underground to protect them from storms and fires. Second, we must accelerate the deployment of energy storage solutions. This includes large-scale batteries, pumped hydro storage, and exploring new technologies like green hydrogen. A smarter grid with robust storage is the key to unlocking the full potential of renewable energy. Third, we need to streamline the regulatory process for building new transmission lines. We need to create national corridors and fast-track approvals for projects that are critical to improving reliability and connecting renewable energy sources to the cities that need the power. This will require political will and a recognition that a resilient grid is a matter of national security and economic prosperity. Finally, we as consumers also have a role to play. Embracing energy efficiency in our homes and businesses reduces the overall strain on the grid. Smart appliances that can adjust their energy use based on grid conditions and the growth of electric vehicles that can even feed power back into the grid are all part of the solution. It's a shift from being passive consumers to active participants in the energy system. The fragility of America's energy system is a complex problem born from a century of decisions, technological change, and deferred investment. It's a tangle of aging infrastructure, new climate realities, and the difficult politics of change, but it's not an unsolvable problem. By investing in modernization, embracing new technologies, and updating our policies, we can build a grid that is not only cleaner but also more resilient and reliable for generations to come. The lights went out because we took them for granted. Now it's time to get serious about keeping them on. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this breakdown insightful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world. Let me know in the comments what part of this energy puzzle you find most surprising. See you in the next one.